Miles Davis, Funkadelic, Al Capone, and a hatred of sound. Confused? Well, carry on watching as I poorly attempt to review the latest Jack White effort, Boarding House Reach. Yeah, nice one, Ben, nice one. Play it down, that way if it turns out good, they're all in. So, Boarding House Reach. This is the third solo effort from Mr. White, and it's his first since 2014's Lazaretto. Fuck's sake. Lazaretto. A lot of people have been saying that this is a very eclectic and experimental album, which it is, but I just want to read out one particular headline from Esquire magazine. Jack White has officially lost his mind on his bonkers new album. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of experimentation on this, but this kind of headline would surely only be would only come to pass from somebody who has never actually heard any music from the 70s, particularly Miles Davis, Bitches Brew era, or Funkadelic, or any form of blaxploitation types of albums. I just had to mention that one. That just tickled me, that one. It's like, you know, get out more. Now, that's not to downplay what's going on this album at all, because there's a tremendous amount of influences going on here. I'm gonna have to read them off because there's so many. We've got jazz, blues, funk, blaxploitation, blues rock, folk, hip-hop, poetry, trip-hop. There's a lot going on this album, and a lot more electronic elements than there are in previous efforts. I would, however, say though, anyone who is aware of Jack White's discography, even some of the stuff he did with the White Stripes, he had these occasional songs that went off on different tangents, maybe little interlude pieces or one-off songs that were sort of put into the album sequencing. So for me personally, there was nothing on here I particularly found as bonkers at all. Maybe I just yeah, there was nothing on it I found that particularly bonkers. Now, rather than me waffling on like I normally do, I think the best way to describe this album would be actually to go through all the songs, which I'm going to start now. Opening track is Connected by Love. Starts out with this sort of synthesizer swell that remains throughout the remainder of the song. As I stated in the opening drivel, there's a much more electronic synthesized component to this album, but I think it actually works really well. Later on in this song, we're introduced to some gospel singers and Hammond organ, which make a recurrent appearance throughout the album, and welcomingly so. Used very well, I thought. I was pretty much underwhelmed when I first heard this song. I spoke to a guy at work about it as well, alright Ian, who pretty much felt the same way, but both of us also said that after repeated listens, this one really grows on you. I really enjoy this song. There's just something infectious about it. One of the standout lines on the song I thought was, let's take the worst and somehow turn it into the best. Fuck you, people contacting me, god damn it. Oh, I hate people. Really well written song, great start to an album. Track 2 is Why Walk a Dog. This is starts out with some, well, throughout the song it's got drum loop and very synthesizer heavy. Synthesizer? Oh god, I suck. There's a great fuzzed out guitar tone on the solo in this one as well that I really enjoyed. I was watching a couple of interviews preparing for this video, and something that kept coming up was a conversation. I can't remember if it's a conversation that Jack actually had with Chris Rock or something he overheard, but Chris Rock was basically saying how nobody cares how an album is made, nobody cares how the music is made. Which actually kind of seemed to have an effect on Jack, because apparently he used Pro Tools for the first time on this album. I think he was of the opinion that whatever he needed to achieve the sound he needed, he would use on this album, which previously he'd resisted. So that could go some way to explaining the more electronic ambience on some of this album. Next up is Corporation, and this, more than any other song on the album, reminds me very much of the Bitches Brew era, Miles Davis, that sort of 70s jam era jazz that Miles did. He always did jazz, that was kind of his thing. Very much a jam feel to this song, with Jack White telling us that he's gonna start a corporation. Who's with me? Next up we have Abulia and Abrasia. Let me just check that one. Abulia and Abrasia. This is a spoken word piece. There's a couple of these on the album. This is actually, I'm not sure who wrote the, I'm not sure who actually wrote it. I'm not sure if it was Jack or the guy who actually voices the piece, which is Australian singer-songwriter C.W. Stone King. I am the Stone King. Fucking great. What a name. Up next is Hyper Misophoniac. Apparently a misophoniac is somebody who has an affliction that makes certain noises and sounds very painful to them, which sounds fucking awful, but literally they're incredibly sensitive to particular sounds. So what Jack did was actually he wrote a song using all sorts of unpleasant noises, or seemingly unpleasant noises, and tried to make something beautiful out of them. It's quite an interesting track, this one. I enjoyed this one. The beginning of this song, quite fittingly, is actually, I think he borrowed his son had like a fidget cube, which he multi-tracked, he like triple-tracked fidgeting with this cube, which starts out the song. I'll just read out some of the lyrics as well for this one. Every sound I hear is louder than the last, sounds like a dynamite blast. When you click your teeth, I need relief. So, yeah. Poor bastards who suffer that. Jesus. Next, Ice Station Zebra. Or Zebra. Zebra. Hip-hop grooves with elements of jazz and even some heavy metal triplet drumming. Very reminiscent of what Lars was doing in the back half of One. Only on drums, but, you know, less distortion. And well, this all goes along with a rap-like cadence and some funk grooves in there as well. Apparently the intro from this song was left over from when he was supposed to be doing a collaboration with Jay-Z, which never happened. It got cancelled. I would have been quite interested to hear that, actually. I'm sure that would have been quite interesting. He showed the intro to the rest of the band that he'd assembled for this album, and they came up with this song, and a very good one it is. Every week I come out and do these fucking reviews in shit, but it's what makes your review so different. It's what makes me a twat. Up next we have Over and Over and Over. This is a great song. This is one of the ones that I could have easily seen this on a White Stripes album. I think this might have been the first song that was released to the public, and understandably so. As I said, the one that's most reminiscent of White Stripes. This is another song that was supposedly around for quite a long time. I think I remember him saying like since 2005. So it was originally supposed to be a White Stripes song, or considered for. Say White Stripes again, I dare you, I double dare you, motherfucker. And he tried it in his other band as well, these other bands as well again has tried this one out for the Jay-Z collaboration that never happened. Would have been very interested to see what would happen with this song with Jay-Z involved. That would have been quite good. Said that in the last piece. Apparently he ended up playing this riff through a pedal, which his Third Man Records, well, his company actually sells, called the Bumblebuzz, an octave fuzz pedal. I wouldn't mind getting one actually based on this song. Sounds fantastic, but apparently playing it through that pedal just kind of finished off the song for him. It made him realise what direction it had to go in, and he did so accordingly. Oh, I've got a notification. Ugh, fuck off. In an interview he recently did, he was asked whether there was a Rage Against the Machine element to this song, which he declared there actually was. There's a kind of Zach de la Rocha tone or cadence to the vocals, as well as a Tom Morello style guitar line. He was also saying how he's a huge fan of Tom Morello and has been for many years. Great song, really good song, this one. Next up is Everything You've Ever Learned. Starts out with Jack doing a spoken word type intro over, again, synthesizers, before morphing into an almost gospel acid jam that reminds me quite a lot of The Doors. Very reminiscent of The Doors. Yeah, just quickly some of the lyrics for this one. Do you want everything? Then you can have everything. But what is everything worth? Do you wish for nothing? Then you will have nothing. And the song culminates with Jack telling us to shut up and learn. A decent enough track. Respect Commander is up next. He was saying how quite often when he picks up a guitar or sits behind the drum kit, the first thing that he plays is quite often the most interesting, and that's kind of where the magic is, kind of going in there without a real agenda or intentionally meaning to do anything. He recorded a drum pattern very quickly and added a quick riff to it and went off to do other things. He came back to it later on and he got the band to add a few pieces to it, and then ended up speeding it up in the computer to a tempo that was still manageable to play. I'm not at work, yet I still work. I am in a field, though it is cold and grey. No friends, no friends, no friends. What you end up getting is this sort of manic fusion of jazz, gospel, blues, funk, hard rock, and the song goes through quite a few changes in both tempo and mood. Really solid song, this one. Very much enjoyed this one. There's also a couple of nods to Hendrix in this song, and there were also a couple of parts that reminded me very much of Led Zeppelin's Dazed and Confused. Really solid song. Just stocking up on some electrolytes. Stay hydrated, people. Esmeralda Steals the Show. This is pretty much a spoken word piece that is spoken over a single chord. I guess it's the, what's it? Is it a G that opens up REM's Everybody Hurts? I think it's this. I think it's the same chord. Musical genius here. Seemingly Esmeralda is gearing up for a performance as the motley mob settles down to observe the show, and as she approaches the microphone to deliver her performance, she simply utters 5 words: "You people are totally absurd." I don't know if there's a deeper meaning to this. I don't know if this is based on a piece of literature or just something that he, or a performance in particular, or just something that he, or original piece that he wrote. But yeah, I found this quite an interesting one. Get in the Mind Shaft. This starts out again as another spoken word piece over a synthesizer, before going into much more of a jazz funk groove with heavily distorted lyrics. Can you hear me now? That was my distorted lyric voice. I'm trying, I'm doing what I can. I'm out in a field. What's done is done. He was joined by Esther Rose on vocals for this one, for what is pretty much a country song. You can imagine Dolly Parton singing on a track like this. I thought there was a great Hammond organ solo on this, which I particularly enjoyed. And I'll just read you a couple of the lyrics from What's done is done. I just can't fight it no more. So I'm walking downtown to the store and I'm buying a gun. Lovely little tune. Lovely little ditty. And the final song on the album is one of the most intriguing, humoresque. Jack actually purchased a musical manuscript. It was some sheet music with lyrics written on it, and on the top of it was written humoresque. It actually turned out, I guess he got this in an auction house or something. It actually turned out that the lyrics were written by Al Capone when he was serving time in Alcatraz. He later discovered that the music itself was written by a Czech composer, Antonin Dvořák. Apparently, after doing some research, Jack found out that, well, apparently around the Tin Pan Alley era, around the 1930s, it was quite common for a lot of the musicians and composers to try and write lyrics to this music to try and get a pop song. And I guess Al Capone remembered some of those lyrics, or was exposed to them in some way, and he ended up writing them down on this sheet music, which Jack White now possesses, and turned into this song. Supposedly Jack was fascinated by the fact that such a well-known violent gangster was inspired to write such a beautiful and gentle song. I'll just read you a couple of the lyrics from this one as well. Strains of humoresque divine, you thrill and fill this heart of mine with gladness like a soothing symphony. Over the air you'll gently float, into my soul you'll strike a note of passion with your melody. Strange. So that's Boarding House Reach. 13 songs, which actually went by very quickly. It didn't feel like a full album to me. But it was not a perfect album, but I certainly enjoyed a lot of it. I've seen people, it's gotten quite a lackluster response from some reviewers, but yet again, as is normal for me, I actually found a lot of this to be very enjoyable, and I could see me returning to this quite a few times. So there's a lot of good stuff on here. Oh, is there, Ben? Is there a lot of good stuff, Ben? Why don't you say there's a lot of good stuff again, Ben? Why don't you do that? Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on here. So that was that, and I'm still going on. What have I got coming up next? Next subscribers request, which will probably be delayed a couple of days, will be Architects. All our gods have abandoned us. Next week for sure I'll be doing the new Napalm Death album, which is a compilation album of unreleased B-sides and leftover songs, but apparently it's supposed to be very good. It's Napalm Death, come on, gotta check that out. If you've actually made it this far, God help you. If you haven't already, subscribe. Justify me being out in a field on a Saturday. Like, subscribe, share, comment, get notifications, and bah!